All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the big day. We're going to go ahead and install the Sniper, and then we're going to go ahead and do our first engine start. So fingers crossed, let's get it done.
All right, so what I'm going to do here is we're going to collect these up here like this, and we're going to put a little wire holder on them. All right, so we're going to hold those there like that. I'm going to put a wire holder here to hold this here. We'll hook our relays right to the top of the foot box, and then I'll run my wires out to where they need to go. I think that's the route we're going to take. That keeps everything away from the hot stuff. All right, I got my Sniper all hooked up. It was actually really simple. So we took the main harness and we connected it right here. And then what I did was I didn't cut off all of the extra wires and plugs that didn't get used, because if I ever decide to add on components later on, I might want that stuff. So I just bundled it up in some silicone wrap here. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it does give me the ability to add things to the car later on. Okay, and then I just used the top of the foot box here to mount the key component. I got my two relays mounted right here, and then this wire here, again, I didn't cut off all the extra wires, even though I'm only using one, okay? And then I ran the pink and blue wire that we talked about earlier. I covered them in some shrink wrap, along with the wire that controls the box.
Hey, a quick note on the cord that runs back to the little box that allows you to program the system. There's two identical cords you can hook that to. Make sure, if you're using the same system I am here, just running it off the coil, make sure that you hook it to the cord that comes directly off the Sniper, not the one that comes off the wire harness.
Through here with a rubber garment. Now you look in here, you can see, I don't know if you can see that far. Let's move over here. Okay, I left these right on top so they're easy to see. So the blue wire hooks to the tan wire that goes to the fuel pump. Now, it'd be really difficult to show you all that, because what you have to do is you have to dig down into the wire bundle, find the correct tan wire, and just splice those together. So we did that with the blue one. Now with the pink wire, I said earlier that it hooked to the light blue wire on the wiring harness. It's actually hooks to the orange wire on the wire harness.
Okay, I want to be clear about where we hook that pink wire to. There is a single orange wire in the harness that's marked EFI coil. Okay, it is a 12 gauge wire, and you will run it through the firewall out and hook it to the positive side of the coil. You hook your pink wire from the Sniper into that same wire. There's not a different wire connection. Now, the Sniper directions say don't hook that pink wire to something that shares another task, like run a radio or something like that. But I spoke to Dan at Blueprint, and he said that wire, being 12 gauge, is set up so that you can run both the pink wire off the Sniper and have that wire be the one that goes to the coil.
So what we have left is the yellow wire, which is going to run all the way around, and that's going to hook to the negative side of the coil. And then you have the black and green wire, which is going to follow the same route, except I'm going to dive it down, and that goes underneath, and it hooks up to the radiator. That's the radiator signal switch. Now we're going to start getting this thing ready for its first start. As the wire comes off the Sniper around here, it all hooks up. You just plug the radiator into the normal wiring harness plug. I replaced the plug and put a different, a more weatherproof one in. The one that came with the kit was kind of crappy. And then this is the plug here that comes off the Sniper, and this is the fan thermo signal. That'll tell the fan to turn off and on, all right? And we'll get those bundled up and put away. So what I've done is any wires that are dangling have been twisted and held off the ground so they don't drag should we decide to move the car, which hopefully at some point we will. Okay, we went in and we checked all the fluids to include oil in the car, oil in the power steering pump, and then all three of our cylinders are topped off, and we bled the hydraulic throwout bearing the other day. That's pretty simple. I'll give you a link to a site online that's got a good video of it, rather than you watch me crawl around on the ground over there. Couple of things I found. When you mount these wheels, the space between the wheel and the caliper is maybe an eighth to 3/16 of an inch. I was surprised how close it was. Called Dan at Factory 5. He said that's not a problem. Installing the steering wheel. Super simple. You point your wheel straight ahead and it only goes together one way. Now, what you will notice is your wheel probably won't be exactly straight until you get an alignment on it. So like mine right now sits about like that, okay? But by the time we do the alignment and get everything sorted out, that'll straighten out. If it doesn't, then I can just adjust it in the front there, not a problem. Okay, the seat is in. Seat belts, I'm just gonna use the lap belts for now because my shoulder harnesses are gonna hook to the roll bars, which aren't complete yet. Installed the shifter over there. That was a non-event, looks pretty cool. Now looking at the back tires here. I actually had a problem when I first installed these. I thought they didn't fit. I called Dan at Factory 5 in a panic and he said, it's not the tires, it's you. What the problem was this adjustment right here. I had these run all the way in. So when I mounted the tire was touching the shock. So I ended up running it out. You can see there, it's run out. About a finger width is what I used. And when we get the car aligned, it'll tighten it up. Now in the book, it doesn't say, at least I don't remember it saying how far to run these out. But I had mine run all the way in on both sides and my tire was rubbing here. So I got that sorted out. Last thing we did was we went and hooked up the hose that goes to the fuel tank. So I'm able to put a cap on it and we're not starting the engine or moving around with fuel sloshing all over. So temporary, but it serves a purpose. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pull out all the spark plugs and then we turn the motor over twice for a good 20 seconds to prime the oil system. All right, so by turning the wheel back and forth, we got it to drink a little more steering fluid. So we'll do that again on this one and try to top that off a little better. You ready? Say when.
Wow.
Okay, so now we put the plugs back in and try to start it for real. Ready?
Okay, high fives all around. Great success. Real happy with that. Let me go over a few lessons learned now before we go on to our second start, and which will be our first little drive around the neighborhood. So after we shut down, what we did was we let it cool off, and then we just did a real thorough inspection for any leaks. We double checked all the nuts and bolts, make sure everything was tight. And then we went back and refilled all the liquids. We topped off the radiator, and we topped off power steering and all that sort of stuff, made sure everything was tracking. The biggest lesson learned here is if you have a wiring question and you are speaking to anyone other than Dan from Factory 5, you are absolutely wasting your time. I spoke to 3 other people about 2 damn wires on that Sniper, and I got 3 different answers, and none of them worked. It wasn't until I spoke to Dan that I got the answer to the test, and it turned out to be the simplest plan of all. So Dan at Factory 5, you're my hero. Thanks for getting me squared away. The other thing that we found was when you wire the blue wire from the Sniper directly into that brown wire that's in your wire harness, you have to pull the fuel relay out. It's no longer needed. If you leave it in there, your fuel pump will run continuously. So got rid of that, took care of that problem. And then the last thing, which probably you noticed as it ran for a little while, was the powder coating immediately burned off. I called the powder coater, and he says apparently the guy that sprayed it on put the wrong product on, and he said it's not a problem, bring it back, and we'll get some good ceramic stuff on there so it doesn't do that. So we'll get that sorted out. So what's next on the agenda is I'm going to do a thorough walk around. We're going to make sure everything's right. Then we're going to start it again and take it first little drive around the neighborhood.
We good? All right.
All right, shall we give it a go? Give it a try.
Okay, you can tell by the smile on my face when I pulled up there that it was a great success. We got to get some alignment issues worked out, but we'll deal with that later. That's it for this video. Next video, we're going to start working on the body, so that's pretty exciting. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Man, I got to tell you, that's a load off. Getting that thing to run. Jeez. There's some beers in that refrigerator with my name on them, I can tell you that.